One. Hello and welcome to this another episode of Open Floor with Nishank. And today is special, ladies and gentlemen, because this is not just the last episode for 2023, but today we unravel through the much awaited territory of life in academia. And who better to do it with than Professor Sana Javed, who would help us steer through the complexities with finesse, flair, and a touch of legal magic. And if you think that I have sort of a bio prepared out that I'm reading, I mean, that is the case. I grew up hearing, and you hear this quote a lot, that two things are certain in life. The first is death, and the second is taxation. Well, two things are certain on today's show. First is brilliance, and then second is a dash of legal glamour. Professor Sana is armed with an LLM in taxation from Queen Mary University of London. Ms. Sana's commitment to education and public policy shines through her insightful session on environmental tax for Indian Forest Service officers. Being the assistant director of the Center for Comparative International Taxation, Ms. Sana is no stranger to legal brilliance. With a touch of warmth, grace, and approachability, today we cover the journey from courtrooms to classrooms. It's a pleasure to have you on board, ma'am. I hope I was audible throughout it and we got it all on board.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. That was a brilliant introduction. And two things, yes, it's beautiful how my journey, you said journey from courts to classrooms.
Yeah.
And you said there's going to be brilliance. You know what my name means? My name means brilliance.
Oh, okay. Perfect. I mean, the team does work a lot on the introductions. I mean, we have to give it out to them. But yeah, I think we covered it perfectly well. But ma'am, in general, also today, this is the last day of the year that we are shooting on. And before I want to get into the formal part of things as to how life is in academia, how has this year treated you? Like, how has 2023 been for you?
Generally, I think it's been a mix of everything. I think I've learned a lot. If come to professionally, I think I've learned a lot in terms of being a professor because moving from again courts to classroom is a very different ball game altogether. And I feel like this year I've been more comfortable in the classrooms. So yeah, I think it's been a year of a lot of learning and a lot of fun teaching. I had a lot of fun teaching your class and the other LLM class also that I was teaching, and I felt like I connected with the students. At least that's what I felt. Hopefully, the students felt that way too. So yeah, it was fun. It was quite a
Yeah,
lot
no,
of
I'm
fun.
sure the students felt that way.
A lot
Otherwise,
of
this interview
traveling.
a lot of traveling as well. Otherwise, this interview wouldn't
Yes.
be happening. Definitely, that's one of the reasons why we even schedule this. I've been planning to, and even to my audience, I've been dealing this for the past 3 months. And I think this is the perfect way to start it. But okay, before we sort of delve into the intricacies surrounding academia in itself, can you tell us a little bit about your legal journey as to where you started from? And also, like, a more of a follow up to that is, and I'm not saying it just because I don't maintain social media, but I've seen a lot of the good minds not putting up most of the work, a lot of the work that they do, especially on LinkedIn and Instagram or whatever it is. Is there a reason you also are doing the same? Because I see that, in fact, when we were searching out for your bio, I could see that there was a lot that you personally, I know that you've done, but then that is not there out there in the public. So maybe you can take two at a time.
So I'll start with your first question
Yeah.
about a little bit about the journey. So I'm actually a third generation lawyer. My grandfather, till the age of 82, was a practicing lawyer. My father is a lawyer. He was in the army. He was in the JAG branch, just retired. So I actually wanted to do psychology, not law. But somehow in 12th standard, everyone was like, you should do a professional degree. And just somehow, I don't know, I stumbled, I got into law and I fell in love with it. I never thought I would, but I enjoyed my college life. I have to say, I went to ILS Law College, Pune, and I have thoroughly enjoyed my college life. Beautiful. And from there, I was actually working in IPR law firm in Delhi, where not to say, not to be rude, but I thought IPR was really boring. And I had to like I had to quit that and decide what I wanted to do. So I had a bit of a phase thereafter where there was some preparation for UPSC because my family thought that you must prepare for some competitive exams. This is a typical
Okay.
North Indian UP side of this thing, and I
Okay.
belong to UP.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so that happened, and I was like, I just cannot sit at home and study. That's just not. I need to get out and work. So during that time, funnily, there was a person who was working in the taxation field, and he spoke to me, and he said he was a close family friend, and he said that you must learn taxation. And at that point, I was like, tax? I me and tax? No, I don't think that's a good idea. And me doing tax is just not something that I ever thought about. But I gave it, I don't know. Again, this is something that I started reading up on it, and I thought, why not give it a shot? I had an opportunity in Calcutta, actually. I at
Okay.
Calcutta.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did 1 year of litigation. I was mentored by a brilliant man, Mr. DJ Shah, and he has a law firm there. I had a great time learning from him, and then I decided to learn more and get into LLM. So I applied to Queen Mary, University of London. I had studied tax programs, and I found that they had the best modules that I wanted to pursue. And it was a very last, it was something that I was suddenly like,
Right.
time nahi bacha hai, let's see, most likely next year hoga, but somehow I got in.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I went to London for my master's. Again, a brilliant year. I think my education years have always been very, very brilliant, like
Okay,
a
like
lot of
before
fun
you
learning.
continue the story, and like sorry to interrupt, what happened to the UPSC part? Because this is something that's very common. And your shift, I understand. Well done. Thank you so much for shifting. But then, what exactly happened to the UPSC thing? Did you still have it in the back of your mind, or
So I never wanted to do UPSC,
okay,
but
okay,
because I had read a newspaper article in college which said that there was a certain politician, and they treated their IS officers. They'd gone to a temple or
yeah,
someplace to
yeah,
visit, and their IS officers were holding their shoes outside.
right, right,
So I
right,
thought, ये तो मुझे नहीं करना है.
right,
But I gave it a shot, and I was, I think, overconfident. I was like, of course, I'll clear prelims in 5 months of studying. Like,
yeah,
obviously, I was, yeah, overconfident on my part. When I didn't clear it, then I was like, no. Oh, that broke my
right,
confidence at
right,
that
right,
point. But
right.
then I really wanted to get out and work. The sitting at home and studying was not happening. And then I was like, मेरे को ये करना ही
Yeah,
नहीं है.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Bus फिर I think then tax journey started
yeah.
from
Right,
there.
right.
Worked in another law firm and then came
Right,
here.
right, 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 right. No, but I'm glad you decided to leave it after first attempt. You know, in Hindi they say if you belong, मतलब तुम अगर यूपी से हो तो मतलब यूपीएससी नहीं दिए तो फिर कैसे यूपी से हो? So
Ha,
this is
exactly.
yeah, I think UP and Bihar has this thing of a lot of, and you know, your parents, I think once, and I mean, even if this is a stereotype, even if this is not, to be very fair, at least once this discussion will happen in sort of the North Indian families, whether you should sit for UPSC or not.
Absolutely.
Okay, but yeah, like you said, I also know that you've done a diploma in arbitration, something along those lines,
Yeah.
right? Is something you didn't mention. That is something that is not out there also. To the second part of the
Okay.
question, why is it that you're hiding all these things? Why don't you want the world to know?
No, no, I'm not hiding anything. I'm also not on Instagram or all those other social media platforms. So that also surprises people a lot. I'm just not very active on social media. I would like to be active on LinkedIn because I do keep hearing from my colleagues, you haven't put this on LinkedIn, you haven't put this, or, all the work that we do at CCIT and everything. So I think, yeah, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. I don't know why. I think it's just out of sheer laziness, maybe. I don't think I should be that honest. But yeah, I've never been the person who's constantly putting myself out there and writing that this is my achievement. Although, at least on LinkedIn, I should be doing it. I'll try to be more active and, edit it and put all the things out. But yeah, I'm just not a very
Right.
active person on social
Right,
media,
right.
generally.
If this was live right now, I would get a lot of comments of this being a paradox because I myself have not. I don't know. I've just diverged myself from social media too much. I don't. I feel that probably my time is better invested in certain other things, whether it's with my family or
Yeah.
whether it's with myself. And like you said, traveling or whatever it is. I mean, but then there is a certain part of it that I want to keep it private also because I mean these things are for me, it's not to show to the world that I am doing this or I'm having this fun or whatever it is. So probably that is my reason to like sort of shy away from social media. Also, I think it's a ongoing cycle, especially with Instagram. And we'll talk about the formal part
Mhm.
in a little bit depth. I mean, I understand LinkedIn is there for another reason, and
Yeah.
even I've been told the same. Especially in the first 3 years of my law school, I never even cared to post any of the internships or anything that I was doing. Neither none of my businesses or anything else is out there on the LinkedIn, because I don't know, probably it is just me, or my major takeaway, even though I understand there are some people who are not into this, has been that there is sort of a circle, there is a sort of a loop which you get into, and you're constantly seeing people post their achievements or whatever it is. And then at the end of the day, it feels a little, I don't know, shallow to say so. I mean, I understand that a lot of people would want to share their things, and it's good to do so. There's nothing wrong about it. But then making that your core point of life, or investing a certain amount of time in that, probably, I don't know, something that does not resonate much with me. So that's why I kept most of it private
I
until,
get that. The
yeah,
thing is that people, I completely agree with that point that you don't want to make your whole point about, posting things or whatever. I think people are doing it because LinkedIn is a platform where you get jobs, or
right,
it's a very career focused thing, which is why I think at some point I should get. But I also feel very strange, very pompous writing about myself. It's very difficult. Like I can't watch myself also on a if like when my father retired, I gave a speech at his retirement party, and it's going to be a year in February, and I cannot watch myself. It's very surprising that I am teaching because I do not like all that kind of attention on me, and I never thought that I'd be comfortable standing on a platform, and where 60 people are looking at me and I am talking. But I'm somehow very comfortable. I somehow love being in a classroom and teaching. Sometimes even when I'm not well, I'll go and I'll still be standing and walking, and that'll give me the energy. But the kind of person that I am, I'm very, very private. That's what we were mentioning with Instagram. And people ask me, you're not on Instagram, because even my generation, everyone is on Instagram and
right.
they're very, very active. At some point, I was, and I didn't like myself for doing that. I was like, yeah, yeah, okay. Jo kha rahe ho, suddenly you're posting it. And I didn't
Yeah,
like
exactly.
myself. So, ek to, it's a waste of time. I have this three-line answer for everyone who asks me that. One, it's such a waste of time. I can do so much
Right,
when I'm not doing that. Secondly, I'm a very private person, so I would not like to put out everything. Thirdly, I'm really not interested in other people's life. I really am not. If I'm interested in somebody's life, I would probably just ask them. Otherwise, I'm generally not. So I don't see the point of me being on social
right,
media. Yes,
right,
LinkedIn pe I should be thoda bahut active. I should at least keep posting some things, because
right.
everyone's been telling me it's not your normal social media. Nobody's asking
Yeah.
you to do this. Everyone's telling me you should be active. So yeah, maybe at some point.
Yeah, but no, even with respect to LinkedIn now, because we're delving into the formal part of things, even with respect to LinkedIn, and I mean, when you post about certain things, even the number of likes and the viewership you get and all these things matter so much to people. I've heard so much conversations about happening about it even in the normal classroom, and I don't know, it just feels too weird for me. And probably you're not in the other person's shoes. So let's say for other person someone has done X, probably if I just saw it, I would be like, oh, that's good, that's great for them. But then probably with the cycle that sort of develops, it's like, oh, somebody's doing X, I need to do Y. And then I don't know why the competitive rat race kind of a spirit sort of develops, which is something that I find extremely unhealthy. I think everybody is in their own way of figuring
Anxiety.
out things, and probably that is why, probably not the
Everyone
association with,
has their
yeah,
everyone has their own journey.
right,
They have their own speed, own phases. So I think this happens with social media generally also,
yeah,
that you see somebody doing something and that'll give you a shot of anxiety. At least for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 days, 3 days, you'll be like, damn, I haven't done that, or I should be doing this, or I
yeah,
should be doing that. Whereas what you are supposed to be focusing on is just yourself and your work. But you start comparing. And I think that happens unconsciously also, where you're constantly seeing other
right,
people post about things. Yeah, I think that's also one part. And I think that affects the younger generation, which is younger, your generation, right?
yeah,
I've seen so many students. My sister is actually maybe a year senior to you. She
right,
just
right,
passed out from law college.
right,
And I know her friends, and I see how these kids are, all of them are dealing with anxiety issues, and they're all going to the therapists and everything. In my time we had LinkedIn, but it wasn't as big of a deal, or not everybody was on LinkedIn. So I think we were not that anxious. We were anxious after that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I do see a lot of anxiety in students, a lot of depression, a lot of stress. I see, oh my God, I see the kind of stress I see during mid semesters and end semesters. Mid semesters, I'm genuinely scared of students. During I have to admit.
Yeah. You give the vibe of that people would kill for marks and all that stuff. Like the students have this, I don't know, I get this energy that is going on. And then as a professor, you feel like, oh, okay, back off. But yeah,
I'm scared, literally.
but okay, professor, in general also, like apart from this, I understand that you said you didn't like IPR much, and everybody has their own interest area. Not to say IPR is boring or any other subject for that matter is. But then why exactly taxation? And then you started to litigate a little bit, then you made this shift to classrooms, the topic being from courtrooms to classrooms. What made you think that probably this is the time I can shift into academia, or maybe this is something that I don't want to keep doing, as in with respect to the litigation part or whatever you were doing?
Uh, First of all, taxation, I'll answer that. When I started studying, obviously college में थोड़ा पढ़ा था. College में I think we were all mostly scared of taxes. कि अरे कौन पढ़ेगा, such a difficult subject, and it's all numbers. And unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to study it that well, or my mistake, I did not study taxation that well. So when I started working, एक तो वो भी था यार उस point पे when I'd left IPR, I was in a phase where नहीं करना UPSC भी, तो क्या करना, you're young, very young, in your early 20s, and you're worried what and how my career is going to turn
Right,
out to. And this
right,
is an opportunity that came in. I'll be very honest, some part of it was fear also, that what next? Because
right,
I was trying to figure out and I was not able to. And again, what was happening was that other friends, people were working or doing something. And that also scared me, कि कुछ तो
right,
करना है types. So
right,
whatever I say that taxation I chose because of this or that, I think I'll be honest for your generation, especially because I want students to know. And this is what I used to tell my sister also when she was going to pass out, that everyone has some phase that it takes time for you to figure out, especially with law, whatever you've studied and when you start working, they're two very different things. So it's okay to take your time to figure
right,
out what you want to do, because what you feel like doing right now, or what you think that this is what I want to do, you may want to do something completely different
right,
after you have the real life experience. So give yourself that time, don't be too harsh on yourself. So lete hain yaar, people take decisions. So give it time. It's okay to be in a lump. It's okay to think what you want to do. It's absolutely all right. Just don't be very harsh on yourself. So that was also part of the reason that I took taxation. Sort of became interested, but why I think I was very lucky that I fell in love with the subject in the courtrooms. It was so much fun, but it was also a lot of work in tax in the courts. A lot of running around with the files, and I knew for a fact that I'm not going to continue doing this for a lifetime. At some point, I want a bit of a, because every person has a different temperament.
right,
I did not want to do the running around always. And my chacha ji, my uncle, is also a professor, and I've seen his life. He travels a lot. He's
right,
traveling around the world giving lectures and
right,
things like that. So at some point, I thought later in life, maybe I'll get into this. But then when I started working after my LLM in a law firm, वही था यार, रात को 2-2 बजे तक, 3-3 बजे तक I'm working.
right,
And then COVID hit. So at that point, there were a lot of difficulties, and the salaries were getting cut off, and I wasn't okay
absolutely,
with working that kind of a salary, especially after
right,
you've done your LLM. So one tough decision, and I'm very surprised that I took that decision for myself. Ki I put my foot down. I'm not going to do this. I know I can do better in life. So and at the same time, I got a uh, got an interview at Jindal, and I had a call for interview in a tier one law firm the same time. Then I again got into that crossroads of what to do
Yeah.
because this is also a really good
Yeah.
opportunity, a lot of money and everything. But
Right.
I think at that point I sat down and again I'm very surprised at myself. Ki yaar, very good because I was like, what is it that you want from life? Money is all right. I have never been the kind of person who's very this thing I want to earn too much or thinking too much about money. I'm mostly focused on the kind of lifestyle I want or the kind of quality of life that I want to have. And so I decided to get into academia, give it a shot. And again, I absolutely fell in love with it. I enjoy a lot. I enjoy teaching a lot. I only get scared during the time of mid semesters. Otherwise, otherwise I'm only joking. But yeah, I really like it. I also like
Right.
the work-life balance that it gives me. It gives me a lot of time to do what I want to do. Like I travel a lot. People don't know that because I'm not on social media, but I travel a lot.
Right. No, I think it's a very personal choice also for people because a lot
Hmm.
of people want to continue to keep doing that. Maybe they think they have a different mindset. And, we've had even partners, managing partners in the show, and they say that they had a certain mindset when they were approaching law firms. They knew that there was going to be a certain sense of politics around it, but then there was also the money thing that was attached to it. In the end, they also knew that they wanted to work their way up the firm, and all that thing is also there. And then I see this very different perspective from your side. You're saying constantly you love traveling so much. You mentioned Calcutta. I know you love the sweets here. But apart from that, in general, also the work-life balance is a very essential thing. And it sort of eats onto you, especially what you were mentioning about the law firm, like working till 2 3 or whatever it is. I mean, it's a reality, especially if you're working up the tier, like tier 1 tier 2 law firms. Initially it's the work life balance is almost not there. But then okay, so you chose Jindal. You had an interview at a Jindal kind of a place, and then probably you had a tier 1 interview also. But did it at that point of time also cross your mind that it probably because you had an LLM from a university that's there in London. Maybe I can go abroad and try for a like sort of a thing in academia, like maybe a professor in any of the universities that's outside of India. Like you just wanted to stick to Jindal for the convenience of it.
Uh, Jindal happened at a time where I was looking to change in COVID ke time pe when people were losing a lot of jobs. I got a job. So I stuck there in first I think 2 years I taught online. Now it's become now I would want to like now my it's the time for me to start pursuing my PhD actually.
Yeah.
So my focus is that instead of and then again for PhD I'd like to go somewhere outside. And then I'll see whether I want to stay. Again, with staying abroad, this question that you asked me, people used to ask me when I was doing my LLM. So, do you want to settle in London? Do you want to go back to India? Again, I never thought like that. How I think is London ho ya India ho, what is important is that I should like the work that I'm doing. If I get the work in London, I'll stay in London. If I get it in India or any other country for that matter, I will go there. But I must like what I am doing. So I know what I want. So I'm not very worried about यहाँ यहीं रहना है लंदन में ही रहना है तो कुछ भी करके because I saw people who took a lot of um, uh, what are those legal clerks, what do we call them? I've forgotten. See,
Took a lot of, as in,
paralegals.
acha,
Sorry,
okay,
sorry, sorry.
paralegal jobs. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Paralegal jobs, or they stayed in London to look for jobs,
Yeah.
doing part-time jobs. I didn't want to do all of that. I
Okay.
thought कि LLM कर लिया जहाँ पे wherever I get a good thing, wherever I get something that I want to do and I like doing, I'll move there. I have no
Okay.
qualms of
Right.
staying back in India
Right.
or the thing that I have to make a
Right.
life outside. I'm very happy in India also, yaar.
Right. Right. So you were fine with the country is not really an issue for you. So that's good to know. Okay, but
And country,
yeah.
if you don't like the work, then what's the point?
Exactly, exactly. And also, I think there are other factors also like your family, and it's also about how close someone wants to stay, whether they can see themselves. I've seen a lot of people come back from abroad after doing the LLM because they're not okay with the thought of, settling abroad just because they want to stay with their family here in India as well. So they'll probably do a
I
job
don't
like,
have that issue.
yeah,
I don't.
okay,
My dad's in the army. Since
yeah,
after 12th, I've been out of the house
right,
mostly.
right,
And my parents are the kind of people they're like it's like you should spread your wings.
yeah,
Go wherever you find opportunities, do big things. Don't be restricted by borders or,
Right.
these issues. Do whatever you want to. And I've not been the kind of person who gets homesick, or I have
Right.
to, missing my family. I'm okay. I can stay anywhere.
I mean, you're traveling so much, so as it is, it makes sense. But yeah, that's amazing to have that kind of support also from your family. You know, this mindset that they have inculcated within you, that you just have your wings and fly wherever you want to. But all right, even with respect to this, and this is probably more on a personal note that I think a lot of people try to figure out or navigate their way through. The kind of jobs that people undertake also sort of affects their choices of probably personal relationships, and this varies from people to people, whether it's with your friends or the partner you're seeking out or whoever it is. Do you think like this sort of has also played into your life, whether it's with respect to the role in academia, or the way you think look at things, especially after pursuing this entire legal career in itself?
Are you asking me, does it affect the kind of relationships you have in general, whether friends or
Yeah,
romantic or all
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Um, I'm not sure if that really affects it. I think what generally affects is, say, if you're in a law firm, I think what happens is it takes up a lot of your time. But if you have a partner who's also in a law firm, I think even if he's not, I think it ultimately boils down to the understanding that both of you have and the level of maturity that you have,
True.
even with friendships. But there was one thing: when I was working at law firms, I had very little time to spend with my friends, even on weekends. Because when I had weekends, I wanted to stay home. I did not want to get out of bed because I was like, मैं 2 दिन सोऊंगी.
Right.
I
It's
will sleep.
extremely tiring.
I am
Yeah.
not interested in partying or anything. It was very tiring. And the kind of person that I am, I accept it with whatever grace I can, that I can't work too much, in the sense, there are people who really can put in that kind of
Right.
effort. I start
Right.
falling sick if I overwork. Because when I was
Yeah.
in law firm, I was very, very
Yeah.
unwell, fever ho raha tha,
Yeah.
because you're exhausted, your body is
Right. Right. Right.
exhausted.
Right. Right.
And for me, again, I that I'm very clear about. Health
Right.
comes first,
Okay.
and you should get the time to do that. I don't
Right.
think your work really affects relationships, friendships. To a certain extent, it does, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I hope
I
I
mean,
answered the question.
yeah, I mean, that's okay. I understand the health wala thing. And yeah, you did answer the question. I mean, but in general, also, we've had one of the people come here in the shows and talk about, so they made a career in public policy. And then probably it is someone who's not really related to the career, no matter how much understanding they've had. It's there, it's a thing that's there, but probably because their timings don't match, or the things like these things may take maybe the convenience part
Take a
is
toll.
probably what I'm trying to. Yeah, yeah, they take a toll at your personal relationships as well, and probably the convenience part, right? Because like if you are like if you are okay with it, and if you're probably sort of in an agreeable situation, you're like, okay, it's fine, I understand, I'm not that, then it's something different. But then how much it happens in practicality is also probably, because even like, let's say I am doing a business, okay, let's say for X reasons, and I am not pursuing anything after this, I'd all obviously be in a very different state of mind with respect to, when I'm working under a job. Let's say when I'm pursuing a job, probably I'll have to spend those 10 to 12 hours at a particular company or at a firm. In the business, it's much more diversified, in the sense that maybe I get a call at the 12 or 2 in the morning,
I
and
think when I was working at the law
yeah.
firm, I was single, which is why I don't have a very correct answer for it, because I didn't have time at that point. I was single.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah.
it's true.
And
No,
yeah,
and I think it
yeah.
it personally also might affect your, especially your like friendships and everything, because I see my parents, and when even when I'm back at home, let's say if I'm working, like you were saying, you had to work till 1 or 2, just not just the health wala part, even if I love spending time with my family, and I think it's something that differs from people to people, but I love to do that. So I want to dedicate a certain number of hours to the people also who are constantly invested in me, but then that parts get completely taken away, and that is probably something that law firms have to
Absolutely.
sort
That's
of
why I
figure out.
think I
Yeah.
shifted to academia. I have so much time because right now I travel with my parents for 1 week. I love traveling with my parents, and my best travel partner is my sister.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I think because of this change, I get a lot of good time.
Right,
It
right, right.
also affects your moods, I think. At least for me, personally speaking, when there was so much work and so much pressure of things, that I think it affects your relationship, because you also become a kind
Right,
of person who's anxious and irritated or worked up.
right.
You apart from giving time, it also becomes about how you are with them at that
Yeah.
point. That also affects a
In
lot.
Hindi they say किच किच कर रहे हो बहुत ज़्यादा. Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, but it's true. It's true. Okay, but Professor, okay, now that you are into academia, we've shifted, we've understood how you decided to take up this time, and you say work-life balance. I understand you like traveling, but apart from that, even with respect to the work, since you are a professor, you're doing that thing that is there that requires a certain portion of your hours. But I know that you're doing some other things also, whether let's say it's with respect to publications or XYZ, whether it's organizing seminars and all of that. How do you juggle that around, and how does that sort of shape into the entire life that you have at academy?
So with teaching, see, we do active teaching for 3, 4 months,
Right,
totally in a year, 6 months, and then you do have, I think academics gives you a lot of time to pursue research, because when I tell people, I tell that 1/3 of my job is actually teaching, and other parts are my research and what I'm doing for the center. So whatever I do for the center, it's not like you get something extra for that. But I do that personally because I really like
right.
taxation and
You
I
like
like
the
doing all
subject.
those
Yeah,
kind of things. So this is again another thing that I love about my job, that I can pursue these things. So it's not difficult to juggle things. It's really a part. If it's I think it's mixed really beautifully with my
right,
life, because
right,
uh teaching and then being in the center, now the
right,
AD, and all these seminars, and
right,
it blends really well, and my research. So
right,
these are three parts which just blend. So there's no juggling, there's no struggle. It
right.
just comes together perfectly.
Okay, so it's more about also inculcating, right? You have the option to choose to what to do. Let's say if you didn't want
Hmm.
to do a particular thing, you wouldn't would be forced into it apart from your
Yeah.
basic teaching element that is there. That's also true.
That's what I wanted. I wanted autonomy.
Right,
I want to decide what I want to do. If I don't want to be a part of CCIT, I don't have to work. I would still be getting the same amount of pay, and I would have, more time for, I don't know what, but I want time for this,
right,
right?
right,
So I choose to do this. I
right,
choose to do a particular research, and
right,
teaching to karna hai karna hai. So this
right.
autonomy in my life of deciding what I want to do with my time, I love that actually.
Right. Okay. So moving on, let's just get a little technical. So you chose taxation, but the taxation law in India is, it keeps going back and forth, especially with respect to the amount of litigation that we've had. And since you've had that experience as a litigator, and then probably transcending it into something as beautiful as, teaching, even with respect to it's a global university. It's a very, it's a very well reputed and accepted university. How do you think that practical part of things transcends into the theoretical understanding that you sort of try to inculcate and balance out, especially with students?
See, with taxation, what happens is that it's a dynamic subject, is what
Right,
I like to call it. It's constantly changing, and which is why I like it so much. There's no, ऐसे नहीं है कि like contracts आप 50 60 साल से
okay.
एक ही चीज पढ़ रहे हो, दो ही concept समझा रहे हो, दो नहीं. So
Yeah,
sorry to people
yeah.
who
Yeah,
edit
yeah, no,
this
but
before. Yeah. So it's a dynamic subject. It's changing. It's evolving internationally, especially. It is evolving a lot. So I think when I'm teaching taxation, it's also extremely important for students to understand the practical side of it. So I feel like whatever little experience I have with courts or law firms, and I can tell you कि court में ऐसा होता है, because इंडिया में क्या है कि taxation में litigation बहुत है.
हाँ,
And I think I've
that's
mentioned
true.
this in class a lot, that we have the highest number of litigation in taxation in the world. India and Brazil are the two highly,
Yeah,
litigating
yeah,
countries in taxation, which is a lot of money for lawyers. Great. I forgot your question now. I was thinking
No,
about was.
I was just asking how it transcends out of the practical part of it because you said कि जैसे आप बताते हो कि कोर्ट में ऐसा होता है into the theoretical part of your teaching because you sort of have that experience to do things practically and then yeah.
Yeah, it's extremely important to give a practical aspect in taxation for sure. I can't say for other subjects because uh, a lot of changes, I'm sure with other subjects also, a lot of changes come through court decisions. We've evolved through court
Mhm.
decisions like Vodafone case. After
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
we evolved to GAR and this and that and internationally also. So I feel like these practical experiences, although whatever I teach you still in class and when you start working will be a completely different thing. But I try to sort of still give you an idea of what you're going to see outside in the world and at least prepare you that with theory, at least you should be strong enough with the theory that when you're navigating your way through the practical aspects of it, you don't fall short of concepts या ये नहीं पता या ये पढ़ना पड़ रहा है, at least that part is clear. Because एक चीज लॉ में हमेशा कहते हैं that whatever you are studying in college और जब आप काम करने जाते हो, my father also told me this, my grandfather told my father this, कि जो पढ़ा है अब वो भूल जाओ, now you start from the scratch. So my attempt, because I've come from this legacy of lawyers, my attempt is कि भूलने की जरूरत नहीं है. I will prepare you enough with certain practical things that you can, when you go outside, you are not starting from the scratch. You have something with you. So yeah, that's the idea of taking presentations also
right,
in the class. I
right,
usually give my, I don't like that restricted. एक ले लिया मैंने written paper, ठीक है. I give you all a take home exam के कर लो, बातें बातें करके डिस्कस करके लिख लो आंसर, दैट्स ऑल राइट. But presentation is something that I feel like I want you all to, you know, experiment, study. I want to see what kind of creativity you bring to the table. Choose your own topic. It could be any topic relating to taxation. You know, see what you want to explore on it. And if you remember, my this thing is that in the end, I want to know your recommendation, what you want to
right,
change about it, what is it
right,
your opinion about it.
right.
So I like to, yeah, so I hope that's helping students. At least I'm attempting to make sure that
Yeah.
you don't have to start from the scratch the end when you start working.
No, on a personal note, I mean, I had a wonderful time with respect to those aspects of the class. And in general, also the understanding of taxation. I have personally felt that, it's not, like you said, it's not, maybe one size does not fit all. But probably, especially with respect to taxation and certain other subjects in law, if you have the practical exposure to it, you can sort of give them certain details, or you can make them understand certain intricacies surrounding the theoretical part of things. कि मतलब book में तो ऐसा लिखा है, ठीक है, you know it, you learn it, you analyze it, but probably this is what happened to me in court. So that's like a good anecdote also, and then in general also probably helps you relate more to the students. But even with respect to that, professor, you said this very, I think, sort of a very brilliant point about how you, ये कहते हैं ना कि जो लॉ स्कूल में पढ़ा है उसको छोड़ दें and then you start, and probably that is something that you don't want to do. But in general, with respect to law schools, do you think there is something that probably is going haywire? Because why should you even have a setup or a system in place wherein you have this sort of distance? ऐसा लगता है कि पहले 2-3 साल, especially I'm a first generation student pursuing, so I don't have a background, but then when I've been trying to navigate myself, I see there is a lot of distance between the theoretical part of things and what is happening in let's say internships or the practical part. This is something probably maybe law schools can address. Do you think there is a certain way to bring about that thing within the law school system itself?
I think there's been a set pattern for many, many years. And that pattern was कि आप act खोलो और वो पढ़ा
Yeah.
दो, and that's about it. Because application is very different. So what then we started doing was internships, right? So the
Right.
idea with law schools is that when you're interning from the very first year, you are getting the experience
Exposure, yeah.
with the practical life. And then I think, I could be wrong, that professors in all colleges think कि ठीक है, they're getting the practical experience जहाँ इनको जाना internship कर लेंगे. So our job is only to teach the theory part, and that's about it. I think that can change a little. Also, what can change is the attitude towards exams. This is a difference. When I came back from London, people would ask me, what's the difference between studying in India and
Yeah.
studying abroad? The difference is that when I was studying abroad, there was a lot of, we were really encouraged to to think, to really study. In the sense, we had a study group, so there were six of us. We would sit in the library with our books, and everything that we were studying, I remember, I still have my book.
Yeah.
It's a huge one, and we would keep discussing it
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah.
So that kind of discussion I did not find throughout my grad time. Oh, masti masti mein nikal gaya. No one, there were very few times that we
Yeah.
saw the library. But that I really liked, and they didn't. We had those take home exams where we were again encouraged to use the books and study and apply application based, which I actually think that with Jindal, I actually like that you have this option of take home exams, and also professors are given the freedom to choose at least the missed semesters. So, in my opinion, that I feel that presentations is something that would help the students. So, I have the freedom to choose that, okay, and even the students can come and tell me that, Professor, we would like to have this as a mid semester. If
Right.
so, I actually really like that freedom, which most law colleges, at least the ones that I know of, don't
Yeah.
have, which we can encourage. And practically, again, professors can, instead of leaving the entire practical part
Right.
to just the internships,
Right. This is
sort of
something
have
that you
different
can also add.
activities in
Yeah.
class.
Yeah.
Because whatever I remember when I was in law college, I remember everything with from my moot courts and MU and competitions and all these kind of things. Whatever research and studying I did, I remember everything.
Everything from it.
Baki,
Absolutely.
I don't. Yeah, these kind of activities really keep you active and
No,
force
that's
you to
true.
think and research and study.
That's true. That's true. And matlab probably even with respect to आप दोनों side पर हो, it's you've been there as a student, and when you are standing on the other side, you understand probably the difference also. And I mean, what does that gap feel like, even with respect to students? What is your mindset generally when you're coming to teaching, apart from the practical part of things? Do you feel like, Arey yaar, I was just there a couple of years back, and then I'm right here on the other end of it, and how has the mindset changed, even with respect to how you look at professors? I'm sure it must be very different right now than what it was as a.
Hmm. I think it was strange when I came to the college. It was fine. I didn't realize much of it when because it was online when I joined.
Yeah.
When I came to the college, I realized that, look how the tables have turned on. I'm the
Yeah.
one teaching वो हुआ था feel. But I feel like now being on this side, no, I really understand one thing that when students are talking, no, it feels really bad because I'm trying to teach something, and then because even though the slides are there, but I'm constantly going through what's in my mind. So when somebody's talking or they're doing kiki kiki in one corner, that's very distracting. And I remember the first last year or something, I think I snapped at my students like, keep quiet or this or that. And I was like, you can't be doing that. But I realized how it was disturbing me so much. And then I thought that I have to, make sure that I'm not so distracted by these
Right.
things. And I felt that this is probably karma because I was a very talkative kid in
Yeah, I
my
was going to
class.
ask that. I was going to ask that. Do you really blame the students only? But yeah, okay, yeah. You were a talkative student. So yeah. I mean, it just happens. Yeah, but this is a huge difference you sort of feel. And even when you're presenting, right? Forget about me being a professor or anything for that matter. Let's say you saying you give presentations and someone is presenting it, and someone would not like it. Even the students wouldn't like it if people are in the behind or back of the minds, talking or anything. And like, I am speaking something. Can you just listen to me in this? Yeah, it's that thing is there. It's very natural.
Then I go back to my own days and I remember, Sana, what did you do? What did
Yeah.
you do? You were also like classroom hi to hai. You were also doing chit chatting and all of
Yeah.
that. So then I tell myself that for you maybe giving a presentation. For them, it's their college days and they're in their classroom. It's not that big of a deal for them. So I try to now, pacify myself by saying all those things. So yeah, also proxies is something that I love catching proxies
Okay.
because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
yeah.
it.
So,
And sometimes I let it go,
right.
but
Okay, you let it go also. We didn't let it slide with our class, but okay. So proxies is basically for people don't who don't know, like you sort of give an attendance for your friend. I'm sure they must be knowing it, but just to sort of clarify. Okay, but apart
I
from
don't
yeah,
reprimand them usually, but I love catching them. I
okay,
feel like, yes,
yes,
I
you
knew it. I knew this was a proxy.
still in touch with the other side also. That is, okay,
My college, my classes started at 7 a.m. in the morning, and I had to
oh God,
travel from my hostel to my college. 7, can you believe it? And so usually it was very difficult to get to the first lecture for
yeah,
a person like me who loves to sleep. So my friends were very kind enough to, give my attendance. So I really
oh.
understand it.
Yeah, I think I've been meaning to start a petition for this for quite some time. Keep classes after 10. Don't. Morning lectures are just absolutely I don't know, they're the
You
worst for me.
must.
I can't
I
get
had
up at.
8 a.m. lectures last semester, 8
Yeah,
a.m.
yeah. We have gone through 7:30, 8 a.m. lectures and we're like,
Yeah,
there
you
was
guys can go to the class and sleep and not pay attention. I can't afford to do that. I have to stand there and I have like
yeah, you have to
full
deliver
glass,
an
not
entire,
cup, glass of coffee, and I have to
yeah.
actively, you know, I have to be really awake. You can just come and like, ठीक है, आधा घंटा ध्यान दे दिया, सो गए, उठ गए. I can't do that. So for morning lectures are worse for me, I've realized.
Okay. Okay. But now, like getting on a more serious note, I heard a lot about your background, and I'm sure people who'll watch this also will understand this. You said you're a third generation lawyer, and I speak to you as a first generation aspirant. And do you see that? I don't know if you were expecting this question, but this is sort of like the most sought for also question because if you have contacts, if you have connections, if you have that set of networking already in place for you in certain ways or senses, it does help a lot. And I don't think anyone can deny that. But then do you feel that
Absolutely.
that difference is there in general with respect to, and I think you can just speak on behalf of your own journey that whether this was playing or how much of a role this was playing for you being a third gen and someone you think if Sana herself was a first generation aspirant, then what exactly do you feel would the difference be?
There is a difference. Absolutely. There's a difference for a person who's starting out fresh in law, who does not have any family connections or background. And for me, it wasn't very lucrative because my grandfather practiced in the Meerut district court.
Okay,
So
okay,
there's
yeah,
really nothing that,
yeah,
his connections can do for me.
yeah,
My father's in the army.
right,
So he has been doing military law all his life.
right, right, right.
Again, does
Not
not
really
really help me.
related to, okay,
But what helped me was my father generally is a person who's well connected to the
right,
judiciary and everything.
right,
So ये था कि internships के time
right,
पे I will not shy away from saying this that his connections did help me
right,
with my internships. But post that, my father doesn't know what's happening outside the army world.
right,
He
right,
spent
right,
my both my parents have spent 35 years in the army. Now they've retired and I'm worried for them because they don't know the outside world, you know.
right,
So for me, even though I'm a third gen lawyer, it didn't really help that much, except for internships, of course. But for someone whose family is already say into litigation or say has a law firm or any of those things, they already have a lot of connections and you get a
right,
lot
right.
of opportunities again. But Phil, I think this is becoming a little bit of that nepotism debate that
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
not good, you really
Yeah.
can't do
You
anything
really can't do
about.
much. Yeah,
But connections do help. But connections really
absolutely.
do help in this business.
Obviously, I mean, network is net worth in that sense. But like, I
Hmm.
really waited for me myself also to ask this question to a later part of the interview because everyone who will watch this today will also understand for the initial part, even if we were to like sort of just recapitulate your journey in a very brief. amount of words. The idea would really be that you were also pursuing UPSC, okay, in one sense. And then
Hmm.
the other thing, you had this IPR thing that's going on in the back of your head, and then you're rejecting that option. On the other side, you have this LLM wala thing that is going on probably, but you want to do taxation also. So it's not that that is the entire point, and probably the reason why, one of the reasons I wanted to do this. It's not easy. And just to understand, like, the other part or the other thing is that probably everyone is skeptical. It does not matter if you are a third generation or a fourth generation or a first generation. I think what really matters, like you said, is the kind of credibility. Obviously, connections do help, even with respect to your internships, the kind of exposure you can get initially. Probably that is going to help you. But ultimately, when you're set to cut yourself out, it does not matter. Over the years, I think second 2 to 5 years down the line, if you are to do well, you'd find yourself a place in that nest of eggs that's there, right? So I think it was more about that. And probably if I'd asked this question before, maybe someone who's watching the interview would feel that, oh, okay, probably she's not going through all of this. How would she understand?
Nihshank,
Yeah, yeah. Do you want me to
just
pause
give me a
the?
second.
Yeah, yeah,
Just give me a second.
right,
Just
right.
give me a second.
Okay, we are back. Sorry for the disturbance, but yeah, it was just I forgot the trail of thought that even I was on with respect to that. But yeah, all I was trying to say is that it's okay even if you're not third generation, second generation, or whatever. You're gonna make it through if you're cut edge for that kind of work. But yeah, no. On a lighter note, we're just discussing it off the recording or off the screen, as one would say. Also, probably in terms of your family life, do you feel that you have a military background in that sense? Your dad was in the military. Did it in general also affect the way you were being brought up, or the kind of qualities and values that sort of were there inculcated within your family structure? And
Absolutely. It has a huge impact on your life because for me, I think because of moving so much, I've changed about, I think, 10 schools in my life, so many
okay.
places. So it's, some people don't like it. I'm not saying everyone's like me, but I really enjoy it. For me,
Yeah.
that's the way of life. And I don't think I'd be, how people say that you live in one place, you were born and brought up, and you spend your entire life. I don't think I can do that. It's very difficult for me. I like to keep moving. I like to keep going from one place to the other. I feel like the growth of a person becomes stagnant in one place. And for you to keep learning and growing in life, you must keep moving. In fact, I was watching a documentary yesterday on this David Attenborough
Right.
documentaries on
Right.
Netflix. So that said that migration is the most important for survival.
Okay.
For every animal on this planet is
Right.
migrating
Right.
constantly. So yeah, that moving part. And apart from that, I think also discipline,
Yeah.
conducting
Yeah.
yourself in public
Absolutely.
life, uh, all of those things come very naturally. People used to tell me you must have a very disciplined life or this or that. And I felt no, it's quite chill, it's quite normal.
Yeah.
But then now that I have more interaction on the outside world, I feel like it was disciplined with as compared to what happens
Yeah.
with my cousins, like
Yeah.
till 10th standard, I was lights out at 9:30. Like we had
Right.
to sleep by
Right.
9:30, even in 11th, 12th, and we were even today, evenings are कि कुछ करना है. You can't sit at home. You go for a walk or you play some sport or you having some sport in your life is really important. Somebody, so I think all those kind of things, and I think we really know how to party.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
we party really well.
Okay. Yeah, and about the 4 year World Cup kind of a thingy that sort of happens. So yeah, also I like you can only tell us, but there is apparently a 4 year reunion that happens for the military people. And you were telling me about that, a little bit about that, and then probably I never realized the time because it's just ongoing. But probably this might be the biggest episode in terms of length and duration that I shot because I just forgot that we generally chip it off. You're like 30 minutes. This is fine. It has to go out and all that. But yeah, yeah, please. But more about the reunion part. I was really interested.
Reunion is actually only for JAG branch. I don't know about other branches and units, but because my father was in JAG branch, so JAG branch has a reunion every 4 years where all the veterans come. So all your old JAGs, all officers, retired serving officers in the station, everyone comes together and there's a good gala time. There are parties and there's lunches and dinners and all those kind of things. So we get to meet all the veterans. Some of them have. I recently, there is the oldest JAG who just expired. We lost him a couple of months, few months ago. General Gorthi, Major General
Okay.
Gorthi. I visited his house in Hyderabad. His wife is there. His son is actually the one who started Trilegal,
Ah, okay. Okay. That's good.
Mr. Sridhar Gorthi.
Yeah.
So I get to hear all these really great stories. Some officers that I went right now, I get to hear war stories. So yeah,
Right,
it's
right.
fun like that.
Yeah.
So it's a good, everyone comes in and
Okay.
parties.
And you made a statement that you know how to party. What do you mean by you know how to party? What is
I
it that
think
the other
I
world
think
is
I
unaware
said
of?
we know how to party just
Yeah.
generally, you know.
What does it
I
what
think the
is it
sentence
supposed
is
to?
quite I think the sentence is quite
Okay,
self-explanatory,
fair enough, fair enough. Okay, we'll not
right?
delve into the
Yeah, yeah.
depths of.
There are all kinds of
Yeah,
this formal parties in
yeah, yeah,
army and
yeah.
this and that, and because we're the bacha party, but now not so much
Okay,
as bacha,
yeah.
not so much. Now
Obviously,
we go
but
to all
within
the
that bracket, yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah,
so it's yeah, parties are a part of the organization really.
right.
So I hope I'm not making any incorrect
No,
statements.
no, no, incorrect statement. I think it's a great
Too
bonding
much.
experience also, no? Probably that is why these
Oh,
things
absolutely.
are, yeah, and it's very
We have
important.
our family,
Yeah,
your family is there, but my father's branch, his
right, right, right,
unit, they're also our families.
right, right, right.
Absolutely. So we're
Absolutely,
very
absolutely.
close that way.
So you're just
They're all
correcting
family.
on what, okay, you
No,
call
no, but
themselves family.
generally
That's a
that
good
is,
cover
that
up.
really is. No, no, I'm telling you, if I go outside and I meet some officer,
Yeah,
some JAG officer, whatever, and they know whose daughter, they are, ये तो अपनी बच्ची है.
yeah, yeah. No,
Like it
absolutely,
becomes
absolutely.
like that.
And yeah, and no, I'm just messing around. Obviously, I mean the kind of, and it keeps on happening. Also, like it's not like a thing. Also, for people who don't know, we were supposed to show this on 29th. A lot of people have asked me also, why is the video not out yet? Ma'am was out there in a party for a week. So I'm just letting you know that is the reason why it got delayed. Yeah, but irrespective, yeah. So I understand that you like traveling a lot, and these things are sort of a part of the process. Also, it's really great to have these elements also there in your life. And that's something that's really good. And I think that is a good party note to sort of end this podcast that we have had so far. I had a wonderful time shooting this episode. I just don't know what the length of this is going to be and we take it out. But I'm sure, like whoever's watching this, even if you're not an aspirant in general or conversation, even though it is the 31st, yeah, it was really, really fun, and I had a great time shooting this one with you. So thank you so much for joining, and I hope I have not disturbed your sleep too much because
No, no, no. Thank you so much, Nishant, for these wonderful words. And this is my first rodeo with this podcast interview sort of a thing. It was great. It was actually a lot of fun.
yeah,
I was a little worried about, I don't know what to say, but no, it was really great. Thank you so much. And I have to say, you've been a great student. Teaching your class generally also has been this semester was a lot of
no
fun
talking
teaching.
about the class. I'll edit this part out.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Just the show
Yeah.
and me. That's it. Nobody's going to talk about anything.
Yes, yes.
No, no, but yeah,
Should
okay,
I
okay.
should boast about that I had the best student of the university in my class.
Right, right, right. So we got this part out also. Controversial, but okay. Yeah, no, thank you so
No, but
much,
you
ma'am.
did win the award,
Yeah,
didn't
yeah, I
you?
did win the award.
So you
Okay,
should,
fair
yeah,
enough.
let me boast about that then.
Okay, okay, okay. But then this entire episode was dedicated how to, keep your life private and not boast about those things in the initial parts. We'll just stick to that. No, but yeah, in general, also, thank you so much. And I'm going to stop the recording now. But very happy New Year to whoever is watching this. Probably it'll be out on the 1st or 2nd January or today itself, that is the 31st. And I wish you guys do great with your lives, and I hope you had I hope you had fun watching this entire thing if you've made it to this part of the video. Thank you so much for being here with us, Miss Anna. It was wonderful hosting you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy New Year.